Welcome to D&D Journey of the 5th Edition. Join our various gaming groups as we play the 5th edition of Dungeons & Dragons. And maybe just hang out and chat about gaming in general. Sit back and enjoy the show.
Hi, this is Kelly, aka Trixie from Ragnarok and Roll, assigned to Ragnarok Story, and Tilda Wimblewick from D&D Journey of the 5th Edition. First off, I would just like to say thank you to everyone for listening to our varied adventures, as well as for rating us on iTunes and RPGpodcast.com. If you haven't rated us yet, we would greatly appreciate it if you could. And if you're looking for more ways to support our efforts, we are now on Patreon, a great site where you can help us continue making more podcasts, as well as some special surprises for our patrons. If you can, please look us up at www.patreon.com/cppn. Every little bit helps. And again, thank you for listening.
Hey guys, Jim here with Creative Flame Podcast Network. Joining me today are some voices you know and some definite new voices as I get to interview Donaven Brine for his RPG Apocalypse the Risen by Rusted Portal Games. Hey guys!
Hey, thanks for having us.
So, since your voices are new on the etherwebs here at Creative Flame Podcast Network, everybody take a second and introduce yourself and shamelessly plug if you must, because, come on, we're all about sharing cool stuff, and this RPG is something cool.
That's awesome to hear, and the more people that say that, the better. Tell all of your friends. That's what we're here to do. Donaven Brine, I'm the original content creator of Apocalypse the Risen. The campaign setting first came out for Pathfinder, and then we went all in on 5e. About the time that Paizo said they were going with a second edition. And then WotC did us a favor and dumped 5e into Creative Commons. So as the review that you hosted earlier said, we have the Apocalypse the Risen campaign sitting, a 580-page tome filled with all the rules you need to play. Player's Handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide, Monster Manual, and Campaign Setting for a post-apocalyptic dark fantasy horror set 25 years after the fall of Earth as we know it. And we're currently in pre-launch for a new expansion for Apocalypse the Risen, the ATR Survivor Starter. You can find that at exclusive.apocalypsetherisen.com.
And I will shamelessly throw it out there. Drive Through RPG's got a lot of Apocalypse the Risen stuff, too.
Thank you for that. We put out an Incident, which is a one-shot adventure, 1 or 2 session, and one of our Perilous Hunts, which we're featuring heavily in this new Kickstarter, that has a extremely dangerous encounter to drop into any game. Just as a, here's what we're doing, and we're going to continue to do more of, case study. Enjoy.
Just a little taste of the horror.
Yes.
That Kickstarter will be running, Reid Finucan here. That Kickstarter will be running probably right after Gen Con. And we're doing a pre-launch exclusive on exclusive.apocalypsetherisen.com where you can get some extra content. Should be back from there.
And that date official plan for right after Gen Con will be August 6th.
Which is right around the corner.
The reminder hurts.
Especially with Gen Con being your fixed point of reference. Because that's going to be exhausting alone.
Running 11 sessions, yes, it's going to be exhausting.
Oof, you are a brave man, sir.
Well, think between the 3 of us, we're running 11 sessions, and still, yes.
That and networking and setting up and demoing, that's a mountain load of work. So, Reid, was there anything you would like to shamelessly plug besides the Kickstarter?
I have a laser engraving business, but that is neither here nor there. So, no, I am good.
And the 4th member of our fellowship that is very silent.
Just letting you know, the heroes take over the introduction first. But, hello, I'm Unchin. I have been a D&D player and DM since 2018. So, I've had a fair few years of just being in the space and also making homebrew content.
And don't be shy, you are an awesome role player. I'm going to throw that one out there.
Well, I do love role playing. It is my thing.
Sometimes it's hard to find good role players.
And when you find them, you nurture them, and you say, yes, I love your background. We're going to use that because I want more of that. Instead of risk and reward.
Use it against them.
Only sort of. You have to make that unofficial Game Master promise that you won't do them dirty for the cool background they write. Yeah. If not, then you only end up with orphans. Orphans and lone wolves, the bane of every RPG.
That was the Joker, too.
That too.
Yep,
Because some adventurers just want to see the world burn.
Well, I want to kick this off, I suppose, by asking a question that has been kind of burning me since I first read this book. And this might come from the fact that I love lore and everything, but did you have a supposed start date at which the fall of humanity occurs? Like, would it be in the 90s, the early 2000s, maybe even the 2020s?
2020s is a good reference point. The final seal was marked off by the assassination of what was to be the first U.S. American president, female. And we had the seals as they were being broken. I had a great author, Jonathan Moon, was writing the shorts for those, and we had to put some brakes on real hard when there was a particular election that ended up being the case. And it got a little, in fact, Reid told me I can't do prediction stuff anymore, but the seals were broken over a 13-year period in our story, as Dr. Nicholas Dobrin, the archaeologist of record, inspired by his own pride, started chasing down these unsuspecting seals, seemingly connecting some ancient civilization around the world. And over that 13-year period, 7 seals were broken, and then voila, the rise.
Yeah, he's turning into a prophet. I had to stop him.
When all of a sudden life starts following art is always a dangerous thought of, I guess good. Too good.
Pulling one of those Simpson moments, I see.
Right, and you really, I mean, it's a path to be on, but I don't know if it was the path I wanted to be on.
And now all of a sudden your Google search history is being followed.
Oh, that's started years ago at this point.
Yeah.
Any good game master.
Yeah. When you research stuff for a post-apocalyptic game and you have to look up stuff like exclusion zones for nuclear fallout, you're probably already on that list.
We're talking about your Phoenix meltdowns. Yes.
Yep. Hey, one thing when I was reading through the world setting, when you're picking around the U.S. different locations in the world, all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, they're talking about Phoenix. I've driven by that place twice.
I lived there for 12 years, just long enough to get used to the heat. I moved.
It's like, it's good when the RPGs bring a solid understanding of the setting out there. I mean, we joked when some of us did a cover-to-cover review that one thing when they talked about starting the colony in Session 0, we did not want to pick anywhere in Arizona.
Yeah, we heard that.
The one benefit is, depending on how many people you get and if you get extra fuel, you could be upwards of 300 miles from whatever city you start in for that bus trip.
True. And, think of what a buffer zone in Arizona most cities have from each other.
Would keep entertainment very easy.
Are you kidding? Playfully, I just rolled on the Session 0 random encounter rolls, and I rolled 2 water trucks. And I'm like, maybe this is meant for Arizona. So is there anywhere particularly you'd like to start besides the dreaded dark cloud of August coming quickly for the Kickstarter?
I would love to cover a few things that were brought up in the review. Criticism responses, if you will.
Roses and thorns.
Fair criticism. Cursive on the chapter opening handwritten letters. To answer a question that was kind of brought up, it was an intentional decision. One, it is penned by the aging Dr. Nicholas Dobrin, and some of those penned now, but not authored on all accounts. I think only one of them did he author, and then the others are recanting some information provided by the PC class iconic personalities. And then also there's context in there that is not widely known among survivors. So that handwritten text and a far from perfect script represents 25 years of how things slip after the fall of society.
25 years of apocalypse with angels and demons and zombies galore.
Yes, and then some.
See, it sounded like we had some Risen in the background there clawing at your door.
Yeah, that's a 7-year-old risen.
Hey, come on.
And in the new
zombie
book coming out, the ATR Survivor Starter, we have another template to apply, the Young Risen.
Oh, that's the scary stuff, you know. Zombie movies have told us children's zombies are the worst.
The worst.
Ankle biter personified.
And especially when they're the ravenous, the really fast-moving little risen.
Ooh,
Very dangerous.
tall, overgrown grass in a parking lot of abandoned, rusted vehicles, and all you see is the grass twitching. What could be under 3 foot tall and running through the grass like that?
They're not raptors. They're worse.
Clever toddler. Clever toddler.
As a father of a 3-year-old daughter at home, kind of basically that.
I mean, congratulations. All of your attacks are at hindrance. Or disadvantage, as you D&D players out there would know it as.
And if things go really poorly, you roll restricted.
Ooh.
I don't know if you caught that on the review.
Uh-huh.
We'll just cut that dice size in half and then roll 2 and pick the lowest. Why not?
All of a sudden, you're trying to catch the greased pig, but instead it's a small child zombie.
The no index. Absolutely fair criticism, and you called it correctly. It got axed for the number of pages. After...
Which I totally understand that one, because I'm like, printing costs. 600 plus page book? That's a bit more.
Not only that, but most of this stuff is on electronic format, and you can just Control F and find anything you need anyways. I mean, it does kind of suck for printed, but it's a page count.
Totally understandable when the tome is that big. I mean, it could easily be split into 2 or 3 books with no problem.
It could have been. That is true. But we already have 6 expansions to work with from here on out. The Survivor Starter that's been talked about, followed by Defiled, then Exalted, Lost Souls, Madness, Primordial, and In Parallel. I kid you not, we've got a lot of content coming. Hop in now, because there's more.
And don't forget the free hunts for those that pre-register too. Because I totally did that too.
Absolutely. So the 7 Sins Adventure Pack for the $1 reservation now gets you a one-shot adventure and 6 hunts, all flavored in each of the 7 Sins. And what we'll also do on day 1 of the Kickstarter, each week we'll release another free hunt to backers. So any level that you're at, we'll distribute another hunt. So for backing at whatever level, plus that $1 early on, 12 hunts and an incident.
That's a ton of content.
Really good deal.
Some of the levels include a subscription to 1 hunt a month beginning next year.
That's awesome. And
we want to make this. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, as part of the Kickstarter too, there was mention of Roll20 and Virtual Tabletop. That's the one that's got me excited, because so many of our games are still online with friends, and it is so nice when you can have a Virtual Tabletop access.
It is heavily the reason that we decided to do the starter before Defiled. We missed a little bit of the boat, and while we were working on the campaign setting and the pandemic, in the popularity of Virtual Tabletop. This is our way of making sure we get out there and make it as easy as possible for people to play, even us to play. Reid did live near Seattle by me, and now he's moved. We're all spread out. We want a game still, too.
Yay, Wisconsin.
And it is nice when you can just say, hey, guys, let's jump on and get a game on, and instantly jump into it, which is nice.
And we selected who I think is actually considered the premier integration company, Metamorphic Studios.
Nice. How did that
everything will
connection
be
come
one
together?
click. Sorry.
Oh, no. Go ahead.
The integration will be full character creation integration, but then monsters, character build, and special abilities, one click, and it works.
See, that is beautiful.
Yeah.
As a GM, I'll throw it out there. It's beautiful when it's just plug and play, and you don't have to spend an evening pre-game putting everything in. I mean, I know with a lot of my players, it'll be like, give me your character sheets and I'll put it in to make sure it's in there for you and everything works. That's basically a night or more of your time you're donating to get everything set up.
Old school building games.
Ah.
Yeah, everybody show up and it take 2 hours to make characters.
2 hours. Oh, I cut my teeth on Palladium.
I love Rips.
Yeah. Absolutely cool setting, for sure.
Fantastic setting. Takes forever to make your characters and a little bit clunky of a rule system.
At least it's not GURPS.
Oh, GURPS.
But it's universal, Reid. Universal.
It's universal.
What other notes were important? The Lazarus.
The Lazarus. By the way, I have to say I love that picture where it shows the burnt out forest and you see the humanoid Lazarus, but then you get a deer and some bird Lazarus sitting up in the tree. I thought that was a really interesting concept.
And that is one thing I wanted to cover. That is not a Lazarus.
Oh.
That is the result of a Darkland. That's the Glass Menagerie.
Oh.
So as supernatural magic came pouring back into Earth with souls from Purgatory,
mm-hmm.
so too did the last minute, what we call it, occurred when all the Miniman missiles were detonated in their silo in that region.
Oof.
So radiation and supernatural magic, every living creature in that particular area became part of the Glass Menagerie. These are living glass creatures. Although with being able to see their veins pulsing through their skin does absolutely harken to the Lazarus. But they're not playable and they're really weird.
I mean, I could only imagine if you're closing your eyelids and you can see through them, that would probably be a bad thing.
Right.
Might lead to some problems.
I love the ideas of picking what the Lazarus past life would be like and using that as a reference for the creation of the today Lazarus.
Oh, see, did I not say Anshin is a great role player? And that was totally his concept in our review. He came up with this, like, past lives. And I'm like, dude, that would be fucking awesome. You know, any past era you could pull from for a Lazarus, and that would totally work for a great character as well as could be character arcs, you know. What if you have a Lazarus as a villain, and just because their actions are what historically would have been acceptable, nowadays is a villain?
Have you read some of our games? we ran one at a convention like that.
Nice.
Yeah, no, but I mean, with the Lazarus and the souls being in purgatory and whatnot, that is just something that is easy to bring, like reincarnation and people from the past.
Mm-hmm.
So there were a number of things that you can do with that, from making heroes and villains to just normal people who were in different times.
And the interesting thing about Lazarus, so unlike souls that were sucked through the tear in the veil at the time of the rise, Lazarus actually escaped through what we call prime portals. Prime portals connect each of the prime worlds to Purgatory. They're not supposed to be crossed back over by souls. That's supposed to be through the crossing of the veil. Lazarus escaped their toil and torment on Purgatory in the mines. Purgatory itself is where the source of supernatural magic in our world is. And the souls that are there, waiting for final judgment, work those mines, harvesting magic, smoke as it's called there. So Lazarus come from any prime world. The Lazarus, they're humans, human souls from any of the prime worlds. Those that you're playing in Apocalypse the Risen are souls previously from Earth. But later, with other campaign settings that are connected, they may come from other places.
And that would not be nice.
Well, you actually answered one of my questions there that I was going to ask about them. So.
But what was the question?
Yes, but so another thing that I noticed, to take it in a bit of a divergent turn, is with the ability scores, it seems that you essentially shifted them from being the default 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, and 8 to 16, 15, 13, 12, 9, and 7. Was there any particular reason why you did that?
Because a little more extremes are a little more true to the hero. But also, that low score matters. In fact, it was a Lazarus who was a eyebite, a player character of mine in one of our campaigns, who had a 7 strength. But I remember saving one of our comrades with a shield bash on a Risen, and I won that.
A desperate move, but it came through.
Generally, when you're going for survival, you're going to focus more on one thing than a generality. So it just goes to show that people in our world are focusing on one thing. That's why they have like the 16 and they let other stuff go, like reading or whatever.
Because
Exactly.
you get that survival mentality.
Who needs to read when you can just bash a Risen in the head?
It also is a little bit of so I have long been called a power gamer in previous 2nd edition campaigns in particular. But the ability scores, as much as they sort of matter, when the world or the encounter is challenging enough, they really don't. So you can be the hero and still be faced with terrible situation in very difficult encounters. A la Perilous Hunts.
I mean, but think about it. We did mention the hunts. That's like the pinnacle thing of the party's dynamic is you're not just taking care of yourself. You know, you're not a D&D group going out to kill a dragon, to get rich, to go to the tavern and spend it on, booze. You're actually there to keep your colony alive, which is a cool dynamic right off the bat. So it means you are the rock stars of this community.
And most colonies don't have HOAs. I'm pretty sure.
Thank whatever's out there for that.
Until you run into the governor and his HOA.
The commune style or community asset style, not too far away from that, though. Your loot supports the colony.
Yeah, and I love that kind of play because it then comes down to okay, so there's the question of we found this cool thing. Do we keep it for the team or do we support the community with it? And you guys do have some great colony rules for how to build up your colony, how to set it up. I mean, I will totally tout on the Session 0 rules are the best I've seen in any Session 0 game ever. Because you now defined your colony just by what you chose, who you risked, who you chose not to risk.
We really wanted the player choices to matter, and the colony that they have to deal with, and also takes a little bit of the workload off the GM of how to build that. Which feel free to tweak them as you want.
Mm-hmm.
But those tough moral choices that players make, their characters have to deal with those consequences.
And sometimes it'd be fun just to play by yourself. I mean, if you're without your group or whatever.
Oh, yeah, because it totally plays out like your classic horror movie. The buildings are burning, the Risen are running and eating people. beams of light dropping, angels in the streets, demons crawling out of the sewer tunnels, and this is what a group of survivors on a bus would do, Like I joked during our cover-to-cover review that I totally envisioned the bus driver from the movie Speed as your bus driver that you're GMing. And then you got these 25 folks in the back of the bus. And it's like, it would be interesting to see what characters the players in the party pick, since the Session Zero rules mean those 5 players or 4 players are safe, basically. So do they pick the primary MOS of the passengers, or do they go with what they like personality-wise? Because you could still get some fun role-playing in that. If your characters are comfortable pulling on the personality skin and role-playing that stuff out, I could totally see role-playing some of the NPCs on the bus with no problem. And then the first time you'd look at one of your players and you say, "Roll me a 1d6." Just as you get on the bus, because you rolled that 6, Bob, the homeless guy, who's a really nice guy, he offered you his water jug whiskey he made. As he pushes you on the bus and the doors close, as he gets ripped to shred at the resin that were inside the hardware store. And says, "Take my lucky crowbar." And then all of a sudden the group might be a lot more hesitant to stop the bus next time.
Yeah, but that meth addict pushing the cart around. Yeah, you probably don't want to pick that person up, but you know what?
That closet chemist who's a survivalist.
Yes.
I mean, as all good apocalyptic movies will show you, manpower is the greatest resource in a survival situation.
And also being able to make moonshine.
I mean, there you go.
Basically combustible. So that's good.
That's right.
It's good for many things. You can make that alcohol stove. You can make an antiseptic. You can light some resin on fire, which is both fun and terrifying at the same time. Is that resin running through the old laundromat? Oh God, that place has dry cleaning chemicals in it, doesn't it? Whoosh.
Or it could be like a friend I've watched playing Lazarus and just keeps throwing that Molotov right into the jail cell. We just can't get it through the bars. Cannot.
Oh God, just the dex checks and the fails every single time. Go through like 10 bottles of moonshine before you get it done.
Finally just say, GM, can I pour the alcohol through the bars and then just like a rag? You know what? I will allow it. I mean, the terrifying thing with the Risen is when a human character dies, how long is it till they reanimate?
Minutes.
It's that Walking Dead terrifying thing of someone being sick and dying in their sleep, and then a soul possesses the corpse.
Yeah, it's not good. And as you pointed out with the depraved, that could be worse than just a typical soul. It could be the soul of some mass murderer or terrible human.
Oh, yeah, with the depraved, I was totally going, it's like, serial killers of history. Getting some inspiration, and I'm like, oh God, somewhere out there is a depraved of Genghis Khan. Be afraid. Be very afraid. And
there's a future additional intelligent risen that'll be in an expansion Lost Souls, the Wretched. So the depraved happens when said soul finds a home. The Wretched happens when that same crazy soul happens to find its own original body.
Oh.
A whole new level of torture for them, which they want to pass on.
Ooh, that would be dirty. All of a sudden you think cremation is now no joke.
Right.
Or it
It
comes
should
down
be
to
the way.
the spare the dying. One of my favorite cantrips in D&D would totally work in this setting. Give them their last rites, please. We don't need them getting up. Especially if you take out some big bad, or like I was playing with the idea I've used in previous horror settings for fantasy of all of a sudden the body and the spirit become two different things. You know, you take out your big bad of the lower levels and realize that the body crawled away to go do something. So it totally gives your players that. Did the villain escape, or did it just crawl away as an animated risen? And then the fact that the spirit can come back.
Love
'Cause,
reoccurring enemies.
I mean, there's nothing worse than when the gates to hell and purgatory are left wide open. Stuff's going to be a revolving door. I mean, and I do love in the setting how you dropped on the fact that angels and demons have always been here in this world. It's just that they've been at the periphery. And, you know, the risen are the new thing, you know. So that way you could totally have a, hey, here's a incubus or succubus that's been around for a century or two, you know. Or does the I've been here since Venice was the going place to go to. And now they have to deal with the crap hole the world has become now.
It was one of the major premises that pried in guiding Dr. Dobrin to break the seals and unleash the chains of the darkness. The plan was to be able to come back here, mess with humanity, dominate the world. No, they didn't plan for this undead thing. That was not in the vision. And yeah, demons have to deal with risen just like humans do.
I mean, humans are fun playthings. The risen are just a pain in the ass.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, demons, it's all about the corruption, enjoying the sins, and then, you know, giving out the Faustian deals. But no, now you gotta deal with, you know, oh, look, it's another icky risen, and they're good for nothing, except for motivating humans to possibly come into your community and let you be their leader. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever read The Walking Dead later on comic books, but when the group gets to Alexandria in the comic book, the politician who runs the place is a very lecherous dude. I could totally see a succubus or incubus being in charge and saying, yes, come to shelter, come to my community. It's a little bit hippie, it's a little bit controlling, but join my harem.
We ran a game at conventions many years ago that had a lust demon that was essentially doing that. The colony, the first thing of note, once players started paying attention, the colony was filled with progeny.
Who knew? All the humans are just popping them out, right?
Right, yeah. By choice. It was exactly what they were hoping for with their life after the rise.
As you can just play it off saying, oh, well, it must be something in the water. But
Right.
We're just glad the kids are healthy.
They were an open and welcome community, and they were housing anyone that was willing to work.
Hey, because again, humanity is the resource that you need to have. You can't stay on watch 24/7 and the risen just keep coming.
And one of the major messages, too, is that humanity's kind of, I mean, while they're the big hope is they're going to continue to try and survive beyond any of the other ancestry you can play, but they're also kind of could go either way. They might not be good. They're very likely not. They're very selfish.
I mean,
Before
the best
seals
part
were
is
broken, before the seals were broken, for whatever time they were in place, no demon was really allowed in physical form on the earth, which is why once it broke, that's when they came. So there was really no succubuses back then.
basically that seal gets broken and it's demon spring break.
Yeah. Well, as each one breaks.
Seals, yes, that's a good point, Reid. It's a good reminder. As each of the seals broke, that sin nature was released back onto Earth, which is why there can be progeny that are older than the rise. Even though, as you pointed out, the descendant, they're all 25. They came down that day. That's it.
Mm-hmm. It's like, I've only got 25 years to work with.
Now, I heard in the criticisms that the humans were not worth playing. What? Like every fantasy game ever?
I mean, I would think a human maverick would be my character of choice, because I dig usually the skillful ranged attacker who can stay alive in more than one hit, and the maverick totally speaks to me. And if you go with the human, you get that extra little kick of feet, and gives you a little more options right out of the gate.
In 5e, the extra feet really does make a difference.
Yeah, since
yes,
you only
100% does.
Since you only maybe in most campaigns will see 2 opportunities for feats, having that first one out of the gate, that is pretty cool with the boost.
Yes, but for my remembrance of that discussion, I think it was just more about the lore of the humans. I mean, we are humans ourselves living in the modern world, so we do know ourselves very well, right? But I think what some of the other people were saying is there wasn't really much for them. And plus, I'm thinking it was coming down to formatting issue, but basically the humans were kind of squashed between...
what Kelly was talking about, that the Lazarus stat block was before the Lazarus section, and it was in the human section.
Yeah.
And then the humans was at the very bottom when the Lazarus started.
It is particularly bad when scrolling through the PDF. Less so on formatting being an issue in the printed version, but for sure. And you're not wrong. This is why the ATR Survivor Starter, the 24 new Ancestry coming, are versions of humans. There are propagated Darkland human mutated, including the Penta with 3 arms. So there's 6 different So these are... Oh, and with this... lore about where mutations come from. It is not radiation that is causing the mutations. That's a different thing. Irradiated is a problem, but the mutations are from this uncontained supernatural energy that's been drawn to areas of particular tragedy. That's what causes these mutations. The humans that are living there, Darklanders, as they've been colloquially called, some of them have propagated specific mutations, bred them into their society, and so you will find societies that have everyone's like this or everyone's like that with some different cosmetic. We build those out. There are 6 unique selections for propagated mutations as a Darkland human mutated, and then there's going to be 18 new native Darkland humanoids. These are humanoids that... And I heard one of you, I don't know which one it was, mention the gene splicing. That's exactly the other way that mutations happen over time, where I think the movie Annihilation, I think, did kind of an amazing job of showing how gene splicing could work, only in this case over a longer period of time.
Oh, thank God. Like, going from a normal human to a bear that can mimic anything in, like, a few days. No, I couldn't do that.
It did something terribly wrong, but visually.
Well, you
and
still
so
don't
we have
want to wander into a Darkland because you will mutate. Maybe within a few days with poor saving throws.
Yeah, you don't want to spend too long there. Just like any of the other ooky places, obey your natural instincts that say, we should leave this place.
Yes.
Got it. Plug 15 into Constitution immediately.
Or,
does that deer have hands for antlers? We should leave.
Write that down.
Or wait a minute, we're too far from the Ozarks to be one of those things.
But one point earlier that you brought up that I thought was interesting was the fact of you saying that dark energies gathered where like certain events or whatnot happened. And so where Darklands could be created. So that reminded me, like, for example, like during the Civil War, there could be like a Darklands at Gettysburg, and where lots of the people there are more rage-inducing and whatnot because of the huge battle that took place in the 1800s.
Did you see the Fire Steed art in the book? Or,
Yes.
sorry, it's not Fire Steed. It's called the Neighing Pyre. It's all the Gettysburg horses that were burned that basically became an entity.
Merge into a giant psychic firestorm.
Yeah.
The neighing pyre. So what happened after all the dead horses from the battle? They were thrown on a funeral pyre and burnt. They were dead. Well, now every night in that Darkland, that neighing pyre rises from the ground, and from the burning mound of horse flesh rides out a fire steed.
Oof.
That is a Darkland construct and event that happens in that Darkland. So, yes, I'm glad you picked that one because it's one of my favorite pieces of art.
You just look at that and you go, nope. Just nope. Whatever that is, let's go the other way before it sees us. We can see it from 3 miles away. We don't want it to see us.
What are you talking about? It's adorable with its front-facing eyes and, giant mouth and teeth. Yeah, adorable pet.
Now that picture, I don't know which one of you noted the temple in the background. That is actually a picture not of a Darkland. That's Paradox, the transitive plane of life.
Oh, okay.
So
You're
much
looking
life.
at Chupacabra, I think the flying creature we've decided will be our Jersey Devil. And this is way down the line, and not a lot of people have any idea because it's not in the book either. Well, those temples, those are planar travel buildings. Let's call them that, and don't mind the squid-looking creature laying over each of them.
Okay, that's
As I
even
say,
scarier than what I had.
Cthulhu.
I was just making a joke about pyramids being built by aliens, and now look at all this.
When in doubt, stay away from the Cthulhu stuff.
Future connected campaign settings and these will all be truly connected. Cataclysm the Fallen, Eclipse the Emergence, Transcendence the Abandoned, Purgatory the Tormented, and the one that connects with those things we were just talking about, Void the Oblivion.
So you definitely have a plan for a multiverse.
Without a doubt. That chapter, and when we launched this original Kickstarter, we delivered it much, much later than we had hoped because I insisted on having that content in there. We wanted to frame out the entire multiverse, so everything we released from here on out, well, one, we could do much faster, but we know the plan. We know what it is and what we're designing to.
And of course, the picture we were talking about, I just flipped through and it's on page 469. See, I was still hung up on the fact that there's a deer with teeth. Reptilian hooved feet, and it's got teeth, and it was still eaten by the canine creatures.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's Chupacabra, that's terrifying.
Yes, those are. Oh, that goes right along with the Wendigo, which is the only cryptid that we've published to date.
Mm-hmm.
Why'd you do it? The horrible creature to go against.
Because sometimes you need a Wendigo. I mean,
no, I don't think you ever need a Wendigo. Those please keep those a myth. We don't need eventually it's just going to turn into where you can have scenarios of actual horror movie stuff happening. Like my favorite one, The Ving. Fighting Saruko. That would be so fun.
We dug a new well and it crawled out. We're saying no more.
Yeah, underneath that well was just somebody who stashed an entire collection worth of horror movies. So now the horror villains are just pouring out. We can't say any of the heroes because in every horror movie, all of them die. They're not smart.
some planescape, there's a demon lord of gluttony sitting there on his couch eating his popcorn and slurping his soda out of the skull of some human playing his VHS collection, and every time he plays it, a demon comes out of the well.
Ours is a massive creature, I believe, in the Sierra Desert, pushing itself across the sand looking for something else to eat because every time it consumes something, it pops out a demon.
That
So
would be a
gluttony.
thing of horror for a group of hunters to see from a distance and see it's crawling your way.
Ah, the princes of darkness.
It comes down to, so what can we do to move this force of evil nature in some other direction?
Move them. I'm moving us. Okay, they
Yeah.
can this territory.
Everybody,
the correct
pack up the
answer.
vehicles. We are leaving. I don't care how secure our place is. It ain't that secure. And after all, in the bestiary section of the book, the demons that are there are pretty damn nasty.
And those are just shunned demons. In the hierarchy of our demon lore, shunned demons are pure essences of darkness. They come from one of the sin natures, but they are looked down upon. They're some of the lowliest of low creatures. The next tier up would be the embrace demons, and they're the ones they all have their own agenda for their sin nature, and they will try and conscript shunned or force them to do things, but they get worse from here on out. That's what I'm really saying.
These are just the trash mobs that you're saying. Yeah. They were kicked out.
Yes.
So
They were.
Sorry. So one thing
No,
that
go
I
ahead.
did notice while reading through the book and whatnot is that you were typically talking to the players and the GM in general as like the players being in more of the light side of this. Not that they can't do dark decisions or whatnot, but that typically they're more seen as the heroes. Did you want them to really play out this sort of like they're trying to save their own colony and eventually go on to do more good? Or were you thinking that maybe it was just more of like a survival style of the fittest?
A hero for the light is really someone that's saving their colony. That's the most that can be hoped for in your typical campaign. And yes, it would be easy to slip into playing dark versions of any of the classes, some of which after running this game for years at conventions, we got to witness player decision making and just how dark and twisted it can go. And this is when it starts being twisted beyond my own ideas of where it could have gone. Then we needed to include some of these. All right, so if you're a shepherd doing this, here's what's going to happen, or an arbiter, or even to the point of including, well, you're going to ship off to this plane and you're going to have to fight this dude on the battlefield of glory. Good luck.
I do love the hint of consequences at the end of each of the classes.
To me, it was critically important that if you were actually connected to the light, not just by choice, but by your power structure as well, that there would have to be. Because, of course, it's fun to play evil.
And when the GM feels the need to X-card the group, dial it back, guys. We're getting too dark here. This isn't DC.
But plus,
And-
the more evil you are, the more likely you are to attract demons that will
Mhm.
basically take over your group, and then you're going to end up in the world pain anyways.
It's like, so, you're playing for our team, are you? We're just going to use you as a battery.
Possession's bad enough, but then demon marked and infestations, and yeah.
Wait, they can use this as a battery. Have they been watching The Matrix now?
Well, when you want to feed off a sin and there's somebody that's exemplifying it, tasty, tasty treats.
All right, new idea then. Convert a demon to the good side.
Hey, that could be a future class.
There's no good left in the darkness.
But if you have a really good lying demon, yes, you can save me, Luke Skywalker. I'm not all that bad.
The join the darkness for salvation always works out.
Well, as they say, I can fix it.
Bottom line, I want people to have fun playing this game, and whatever version of that, it's the right version.
Yeah, you guys definitely give away the keys to the kingdom on this one.
There were some gold comments that I would love to quote on. That was one of them. The discussion of traps led to a couple others.
Hey, I love the fact that you give players the GM's point of view for how traps work, mechanics-wise. That's totally hidden away in the DMG and 5th edition, but players never get to see it, and they never, ever, ever use traps in game. This way, they have total access to, if you've played any zombie games, traps are your friend.
And with the Jackal class, the Path Keeper, we had to have that in there. The Finder's great at getting through traps, but the Keeper can set them. In fact, they can use those Jackal tags to eventually house a little magic. The Rogue that inherently has just a touch of magic.
I love that my players would look at that in a second and they'll just be like, can we construct that trap? We've seen I Am Legend. We need those kind of traps.
It would be fun to set up. Go ahead.
I was just agreeing.
Oh, yeah, but I would say it would be fun to set up a piano trap, because you always have to have one of those.
Risen Kill of the Week.
Yes, exactly. Just do the classic scream, push a piano down the stairwell, ping, bing, bing.
One of our DMs set up a tough shed full of gravel that was hanging from a ceiling, and then if you hit the wrong button in this thing, it came down on this gazebo.
The light switches for the giant warehouse that you were in that was dark was in a gazebo. It was this old pre-rise display warehouse. So the gazebo, you go in there and the players find the lights. Oh, we can turn the lights on, flip the switches. And as Reid said, tough shed filled with gravel dropped right on you.
Yeah. Well, we know the shed's going to be okay.
Right.
I mean, and think of how nice that would be with so many of the Risen having low intel of just baiting them into a trap. I mean, and the nice thing is the GM is you just look at the Risen and you go like, oh yeah, this guy's dumb as a post. He will chase someone off a ledge,
I really, prior to The Walking Dead, could not really get into any zombie stories. The Walking Dead did it for me, though. It is truly is a huge direction for the design for me, because you can totally convince them. In fact, we have an adventure that will be coming out. Behind it, the GM will see the title that it's the Risen Dance Party. It's just a light globe in a room that they're drawn to.
The light. It's like raves. So there's a rave full of Risen that are excited. Yay! Close and chain the doors and we'll burn it down later. Oh wait, was that a bunch of supplies in the corner of the room? Damn it!
And I know you caught on to the Decayed for ways to lessen the power scale of a Risen. But then there's the Bloated, the ones that are really well fed.
Oh yeah. I saw the one picture on the website there, and they are nasty.
They really are. That was one that we did not have illustrated for the campaign sitting that will appear fully statted out in the new book. And that won't love any of the types, but you started to say?
Oh, I was going to say, it really is great that you give the Risen they can degrade or evolve, which I love that part where it talks about how a hungry can turn to a famished if it feeds well. So you could totally at one point of a game, just as a GM story building wise, totally tell your players, you see this group out here, oh, you didn't stop some people from being attacked by them. That's fine. You guys turn around and drive back this way 6 months later, and they've now evolved because they ate all those people. So now, as the players come back at a higher level, so do the undead level up.
Consequences for poor moral choices. Yes.
I do love butterfly effects. They are really fun in games.
Hey, that's how you know there's consequences to your sandbox options. As a GM, I love giving a sandbox. Here's the things you know about. Like I was totally thinking in a campaign for Apocalypse the Risen is come up with a loose map. You know, sort of like Mutant Year Zero, how they do the loose map. You have your colony, and there's a loose map, and I'll totally sprinkle of, over here, other hunter groups said there's this resource. And over here is this resource. But from point A to point B, you really don't know what's out there. And let the players get the exploration pillar in, filling in the gaps.
I like it.
It's
Yes.
nice in a sandbox where they can just go, nope, and you're not making them feel punished for it. It's like, okay, so what do you guys do instead besides going back to the hungry mouths back at the colony? I mean, in the dark woods, there's totally that conservatory that will help you out with his magic apples.
Well, in
Too
the
bad.
previous book, you played heroes, or the hunters, who are basically the suppliers of most stuff. In the starter, you play most of the everyday colonists. That's most of the things there, although they are not wimps in their own right. But that way you get a chance to play more of a homespun person.
That's cool. And to quote The Walking Dead, at this point in the apocalypse, we've all done, each of us have done something. If you're here, you're a survivor in some way.
How many people have you killed? Why not?
Absolutely.
What is your
that.
special skill?
What we're calling the everyday survivors, not the everyday heroes. And I mean, look, the colonists, all the classes in the new book and the ATR Survivor Starter are prior NPC classes that we've upscaled to PC. And because exactly that, you're not sitting around waiting to be risen food. Everybody in the colony has to fight. Yeah, you're the farmer. Great. Guess what? There's a risen in your field. You don't have time to go get someone. Use the pitchfork.
Yep. I mean, I totally envisioned it during, when I was scripting out a bit of a campaign. First level is literally, hey guys, your team's the one that drew today's lottery. You got to go outside the wall and get rid of those decayed risen that are clawing on the wall before they build up too much numbers. So that way it's every citizen takes a turn doing this crap job. It's just your day, So that way the group can cut their teeth and, okay, good, you did that. Go over to the hunter cache over there and bring some of those supplies that the hunters dropped off. Because we know the hunters aren't going to come right back to the colony. They're going to stop and cache stuff because that would just lead the risen right to the colony's front door. And once it's when I've shot of the colony, they'll pling a flag so we know it's ready to be picked up, and we'll send you guys. And then as they level up, they can go further and further. And I do love the way you guys wrote out the colony rules of how far is the safe zone, depending on the size of your colony and its abilities.
Yes.
That you actually quantified that.
Your flag marking is totally the exterior defense perimeter.
Mm-hmm. It's like, so, hey guys, go get the supplies. I hope some risen didn't creep in during the night. Or worse, I hope the hunter team didn't get eaten and risen themselves.
Mm.
As some diabolical ravenous is finding a new herd of humans to harvest. There is, in one of my campaigns, I wrote out a little skeleton of, I was totally like, yeah, there's going to be a ravenous that is happy to have play toys again. Because he goes through colonies so fast. How do I play with them and make them turn on each other inside?
The Theater of Planes, which we are running at Gen Con, the story starts off with a depraved and arisen horde have attacked the colony. You wake up to this, and the depraved got off with the colony seer, and you got to go rescue them.
Gotta love a rescue mission. I was also thinking as a community, a mobile group of truckers. Tradesmen truckers that go from colony to colony. You would definitely want that in the apocalypse.
Absolutely. You need your goodsmen. You need your reporters to help facilitate trade. And if you've got the fuel and the mechanical and combustible resources to keep those vehicles running, yes.
And speaking of the resources, I love how you guys did the resource mechanic.
Thank you for that. We needed to have some type of currency system. Well, it wasn't going to be gold. And I thought it was really important that resource system be something that is actually usable beyond it counts as $1. Right? These are things you actually need. The splicer directly uses them for making their fuses and the auxiliary to store spells in their fuses. You need a little mechanical and a little combustible to make that work. The vehicles to keep running. Everything in the colony has, if you want to keep track of all these things on a full campaign, you've got costs, maintenance costs, upkeep. All the more reason to keep scavenging for things.
And
but then
it helps
you come across a lot of it.
I mean, it really does help the GM because that way you're just saying resource, not having to say, okay, you found a catalytic converter and a little bit of starter fluid, and having to come up with all these things. You can just say you found this, and then it lets your players role play it too, so they can totally say what the resource they found was, which is nice.
Yeah, you could get as gritty or down to Pathfinder as you want. You really want.
I love that saying.
Yeah.
And you'll find that we did the same with ammunition. You'll have, instead of getting into specific calibers, we just mention ammunition that works for different types of firearms. Some that are interchangeable, some that are not.
Which that is nice than not having to do the massive amounts of ammo count.
It's still ultimately a resource, but yes.
Or like my Friday Night Fallout group laughs, that they have 200 plus rounds of ammunition for the gun they don't have.
That was ridiculous. That was such a...
But the nice thing is, in your setting with a resource, you can then scrap it to be used for something else.
Yeah. Well, and in many areas, water and ammunition are their own resources on top of combustible, consumable, and mechanical.
Places like Arizona.
Yep. One of the finite resources. We have all the solar power you want, but none of the water to drink. We'll gladly recharge your batteries for 5 gallons of water resource.
I don't know, maybe the apocalypse caused, a global shift to where we could get rain again.
There you go. Except it's all toxic acid rain.
It turned off HARP.
Your toxic acid rate, that's in the book.
Yep. Congratulations, you have all the rain you want, none of it you can use.
Or worse, the gamma rain from a radiation storm.
Yeah, I constantly was seeing those as like the Twister nightmare coming by once or twice a year. Guess what you see touch down? The gamma storm. Everybody.
Storm but on steroids. 100%.
Yeah. All of a sudden it's like, so what are we doing there, guys? We're bunkering down. That's what the adventure is. Good thing everybody bunkered down really well. I can only hope that no demons or devils snuck in with us. Because, of course, that's going to be the big one to worry about. All of a sudden you turn around and you realize, I did head count. We have 2 extra people in here.
At least you can identify that there's extras as opposed to the possessed person that you don't know.
Yep. I mean, that would be a great game night for if you have some missing players. Totally have one of those 2 missing players possessed with the group, and the GM will totally play their character to help the party out. Sure, I'll help the party out. Don't want you all playing short-handed, do we?
And this is where we lose trust in our GM.
And it's events like that that cause the GM to be the consummate adversary. We trusted
fine,
you.
They're not here.
We trusted you.
Here's a flesh tornado with rot hail.
Oh, yeah, when I was reading the weather conditions of just stuff falling out of the sky.
It's not pretty. It's got to smell terrible.
That would have to be absolutely horrible. And then I'm thinking of what repercussions come down the line with the insect population and the disease population. You know, it would be absolutely horrific. I mean, you could totally hope your players take the story bait and say, can I do a medicine to find a way for us to clean this up well and roll, and hopefully they succeed. It's like, you know, if they don't succeed and you look at them and just go, this is a biological hazard nightmare.
And hopefully it wasn't from an infected horde of risen, and there's grave worms and rot flies waiting in that
the
mess.
rot flies. I totally know that when we play a campaign and I use one of those in front of Kelly, she's going to be like, nope, no more of those. There's certain things in certain games she says I'm not allowed to use, and like in D&D, the burrowing worms is one that I'm not allowed to use on her because she can visualize it too well, or the rock grubs. Well,
at risk of ruining somebody's day for a perilous hunt that we will be releasing, the giant constrictile dropping a bloated, infected risen on the party.
Ooh.
Splash!
This is a game setting that we definitely want to play in. You know, we want to make sure to share it with folks so they know as well how awesome it's going to be to play Apocalypse the Risen. What are the release dates that you know hard and steady? Just so we can reiterate those. I know we got the Kickstarter coming up in August. Anything else coming between now and then?
We will continue to put out a few hunts just as reference, but most of them are being held back for those 12/6/2, the dollar backers now and the early backers the week of the Kickstarter launching. The expectation in talking with Metamorphic is that by the end of the year, which is when we plan to have the Survivor Starter published by, they should be able to have everything up on Roll20.
That's the one I'm definitely looking forward to.
Everything that we're releasing, we're going to have on Roll20. It'll truly be full integration. And the top tiers include all of that stuff.
All the PDFs are on Drive-Thru-RPG as well. And
yes,
print on demand as well.
Yep, I definitely snuck in there and noticed on Drive-Thru-RPG that you guys have quite a bit of content there.
And we will be releasing more on our Patreon.
That's also where you find your, when you're talking about character sheets on the thing, the character sheets on there are branded as ours, and they are with our stuff on it, not just straight 5e character sheets. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt Donaven.
They got your flavor.
It's required. Given all of the original skills, tools, it was necessary to have our own character sheets. So Drive-Thru-RPG, the upcoming Kickstarter, which we're launching the Tuesday following Gen Con. Reid, we're launching then?
Oh, thanks for letting me know. Thank you.
Just so you're aware, we're committed to this plan. Tuesday, August 6th, the post-Gen Con ATR Survivor Starter Kickstarter will launch.
Fantastic.
Be there early for up to 6 extra hunts. 1 per week during the campaign, and 2 for backers that are celebrating with us at the end. We've got some really killer stretch goals that we're super excited to get through.
Yep, I was peeking over at rustedportal.com because you do have some sneak peeks on the Kickstarter items, which is nice.
And we have even dialed that up to 11.
Nice.
One of the early stretch goals will be taking the full integration to Foundry as well. So we cover 2 of the most popular spots.
There you go. So you've got the VTTs covered.
Yes.
Because we are in that era where most folks are now playing virtually instead of across the table.
And early on, even more interior art, more Darkland native beasts. And then one I'm pretty stoked about, and you can see this in some of the art that we threw up, but an Art of ATR poker card set, which we will also use for a new self-driven solo game engine and a new version of Session Zero. So
Nice.
Instead of rolling the dice, you pull a card from the deck.
Hey, that gives more options.
And plus then you have cool cards with our art on it.
And who can't use more poker cards? Because, we're gamers and we like all kinds of games.
And that allows us to put more things out using that mechanic.
Nice. So hopefully we will hear back from you guys after you hit the fantastic event that is Gen Con. And the Kickstarter kicks off, which that's definitely looking forward to that one. Don't forget to sign up on the website for the reminder and the sneak peek, because I'm sorry, 6 adventures is awesome. Because, yeah, that alone is worth it, just for the content. Here's my $1 to reserve me as a human being and not a bot.
Yes. That's exclusive.apocalypsetherisen.com.
Mm-hmm. And you guys have tons of content. And I will totally put it out there that Rusted Portal also has a card game that my wife absolutely loves, that we fell in love with at ReanCon like a decade ago, the Ren Fair game.
A Ren Fair game. All right.
Yeah, give it a check out at the Rusted Portal. You get to basically dress up a character. It's a fun game, and last we looked, it was out of print, but apparently Rusted Portal does have it now.
Wow.
So, shameless plug.
I think you had some error there. I don't remember that game.
No, that's something else.
Was that a train?
I live close to tracks.
As long as the house is okay.
Reid's making jackal tags.
Gotta get that game research in. Alrighty, guys. I'll say that's probably a good place to wrap it up there before the train takes us away, because, oh man, there's another thought. Train conductor is a roving community.
We had that video. I will thank you. Thanks for your time, James.
All right,
you.
thanks for coming on, guys, and we'll definitely have to get you on again and have a follow-up after the Kickstarter's gone through.
Love it, and can't wait to see some games.
Oh, heck yeah. We've got plans to get some Sunday night gaming going on to definitely test out the system, and apparently almost everyone wants to be a half-demon spawn. I was still doing some polls with the group. I'm like, who wants to play what? And I'm like, So we're going to name the colony Purgatory, and it's going to be full of so many half-demon children. I wonder where all of them came from.
You got 7 different progeny to choose from, so they all can be different.
Yep.
Yeah. Those sin natures, you get 1. That's a pick. Plus the other changes that they get to select from. Enjoy. And yes, we'll be definitely in touch. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, guys. Have a great time.
You too.
All right, later.
Thank you for listening to D&D Journey of the 5th Edition. a member of the Creative Play and Podcast Network. Please follow us on Patreon at patreon.com/CPPN to never miss a show or stream.